On February 17th, 2025, Michael Jordan's life changed forever on live TV. The basketball legend was celebrating his 60th birthday when his high school girlfriend appeared on screen. Elena Martinez hadn't spoken to him in 43 years. But she had one question that would shock the world. "Do you remember the promise you made to me the night before you left for college?" She asked that Michael's face went pale. His hands shook. He whispered, "I remember everything, Elena. And I'm sorry." Then he walked off the set. What promise could make the world's strongest athlete break down and cry? And why did millions of hearts break when they learned the truth? The bright lights of the ESPN studio felt hotter than usual that February morning. Michael Jordan sat in his favorite chair, the one they always saved for him during special interviews. His silver hair was perfectly styled. His suit cost more than most people's cars. At 60 years old, he still looked like he could step onto a basketball court and dominate. "We're live in 30 seconds, called out the director. His voice echoed across the busy studio. Sarah Chun, the veteran sports reporter, shuffled her papers. One last time. She had interviewed Michael Jordan dozens of times over the years. This should be easy. A birthday celebration. A look back at his amazing career. Simple questions about his greatest moments. But today felt different. Sarah had a secret. Something that could change everything. "Good morning, America," Sarah said, looking directly into the camera. "I'm Sarah Chun, and today we're celebrating a legend. Michael Jordan turned 60 today, and we're here to talk about his incredible journey from a skinny kid in North Carolina to the greatest basketball player who ever lived." Michael smiled his famous smile, the one that had sold millions of shoes, and made him one of the richest athletes in history. "Thanks for having me, Sarah. Always a pleasure. Let's start with the basics," Sarah said. 6 NBA championships, 5 MVP awards, 14 All-Star games. When you look back at all those trophies, what are you most proud of? Michael leaned back in his chair. He had answered this question 1,000 times. "Well, Sarah, I'm proud of the team we built in Chicago. Those Bulls teams were special. We pushed each other to be better every single day. And your teammates always talk about your drive, your need to win. Where did that come from?" "I've always been competitive," Michael said. "Even as a kid, I hated losing more than I loved winning. That's what drove me." Sarah nodded. This was all standard stuff. The same answers Michael had given for 30 years. But now came the hard part. The part that would change everything. "Michael, let's talk about regrets," Sarah said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook just a little. "You've accomplished more than any athlete in history. But is there anything you wish you could do differently?" Michael's smile faded slightly. "Regrets? I don't know. I played hard. I gave everything I had. I tried to be the best teammate I could be." "I'm not talking about basketball," Sarah said. Quietly. "I'm talking about life. About the choices we make when we're young. About promises we make that we might not keep." The studio grew quiet. Even the camera operators stopped moving. Michael's eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. This wasn't part of the plan. "What are you getting at, Sarah?" Michael asked. Sarah took a deep breath. "Michael, there's someone watching today who knew you before the fame, before the championships, before you became his heiress." Michael's hands gripped the arms of his chair. His knuckles turned white. "Her name is Elena Martinez," Sarah continued. "She's from Wilmington, North Carolina. She went to high school with you. She was special to you." The color drained from Michael's face. In 30 years of interviews, no one had ever seen him look scared. But now, sitting in front of millions of viewers, Michael Jordan looked terrified. "Elena Martinez," he whispered. The name came out like a prayer. "She's here with us today," Sarah said, "via satellite from a small cafe in North Carolina. Elena, can you hear us?" The studio's big screen flickered to life. There, sitting at a wooden table surrounded by coffee cups and morning light, was a woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple blue sweater. Her hands were folded in her lap. She looked nervous. "Hello, Michael," Elena said. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the airwaves like thunder. Michael stared at the screen. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The greatest trash talker in basketball. History was speechless. "It's been a long time," Elena continued. 43 years since we last spoke." "Elena," Michael finally managed. How are you?" "I'm well," she said. "I'm a nurse now. Head of pediatrics at Duke Children's Hospital. I have 2 daughters. I've built a good life." "I'm glad," Michael said. But his voice cracked when he said it. Sarah watched the exchange with growing excitement. This was television gold. Two people who had once meant everything to each other, talking for the first time in decades. "Elena," Sarah said, "you asked to be here today. You said you had something to ask Michael. Something important." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She looked directly into the camera, as if she could see Michael's face. "Michael," she said, "I need to ask you something. It's been eating at me for 43 years. Michael leaned forward. "What is it? Do you remember the promise you made to me the night before you left for college? The one about us?" The question hung in the air like a basketball at the peak of its arc. Michael's face went completely pale. His hands started shaking. For a moment, it looked like he might faint. The studio was dead silent. Even the director forgot to breathe. "The promise," Michael whispered. "Oh God, Elena. The promise. Do you remember?" Elena asked. Tears were streaming down her face now. Michael looked at the camera, then at Sarah, then back at the screen. His eyes were haunted, broken. "I remember everything, Elena," he said, his voice barely audible. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Sarah leaned forward. "Michael, what was the promise?" But Michael was already standing up. He pulled off his microphone and dropped it on the floor. Without another word, he walked off the set. The camera followed him for a few seconds before cutting back to Sarah, who looked stunned. "We're going to take a quick break," Sarah said to the camera. "When we come back, we'll try to understand what just happened." The screen went black. Within minutes, social media exploded. #JordanPromise started trending worldwide. Everyone wanted to know, what was the promise? Why did it make Michael Jordan run away? And who was Elena Martinez? But Michael had vanished. His security team surrounded him as he left the building. His phone went straight to voicemail. His representatives released a statement saying he needed time to process. The world's greatest athlete, the man who never backed down from any challenge, had been brought to his knees by a single question from a woman he hadn't seen in over 4 decades. The promise. What was the promise? And why did it break millions of hearts around the world? 43 years earlier, the smell of fried chicken and Old Wood filled Martinez family restaurant every evening. It was a small place on Market Street in Wilmington, North Carolina. Only 12 tables, but they served the best food in town. At least, that's what the locals said. Elena Martinez sat at table number 7, her favorite spot in the corner. Books covered the small table. Biology textbooks, chemistry notes, practice tests for her college entrance exams. At 16, she already knew what she wanted to be when she grew up, a doctor. Her father, Roberto Martinez, wiped down tables nearby. He had moved his family from Mexico when Elena was just 5 years old. He worked 3 jobs to keep the restaurant running. Her mother, Maria, cooked in the kitchen from dawn until midnight. They sacrificed everything so Elena could have a better life. "Mija," Roberto called out in Spanish. "You need to eat something. You've been studying for 4 hours." Elena looked up from her anatomy book. Her long black hair fell across her face. "I'm fine, Papa. Just a few more chapters." The bell above the front door chimed. Elena didn't look up. Customers came and went all day. But this time, her father's voice changed. "Welcome to Martinez Restaurant," Roberto said. "Table for 1. "Actually," came a deep voice. "I was hoping to get some food to go. I heard you have the best chicken in town." Elena glanced up. A tall, skinny boy stood by the front counter. He looked about her age, maybe a little older. His basketball shoes were worn out. His clothes were simple but clean. He had kind eyes and a shy smile. "You're the Jordan boy," Roberto said. "From the high school team." The boy nodded. "Yes, sir. Michael Jordan. I play for Laney High." "I've heard about you," Roberto said with a grin. "People say you're pretty good." Michael shrugged. "I'm okay. Still got a lot to learn." Elena watched this exchange while pretending to read. There was something different about this boy. Most athletes who came to the restaurant were loud and cocky. They acted like they owned the world. But Michael seemed humble, almost nervous. "The chicken will be ready in 10 minutes, Roberto said. "You can wait at any table." Michael looked around the restaurant. Most tables were empty. It was Tuesday night, usually their slowest time. His eyes landed on Elena's table in the corner. She quickly looked down at her book. "Excuse me," Michael said, walking over. "Is it okay if I sit here? I don't want to bother you." Elena looked up, surprised. "It's fine. I'm just studying." Michael sat down across from her. He tried not to stare, but he couldn't help it. Elena was beautiful, but not in the way most high school girls tried to be. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her clothes were simple, but her eyes were bright and intelligent. What are you studying? Michael asked. Biology, Elena said. I want to be a doctor someday. That's cool, Michael said. I'm not very good at science. Math either. I'm better with my hands than my brain. Elena smiled. Basketball takes brains too. You have to think fast. Make quick decisions. I never thought about it that way, Michael said. What kind of doctor do you want to be? Pediatrician, Elena said without hesitation. I want to help kids, especially kids who don't have much money. Kids like me when I was little. Michael nodded. That's really nice. The world needs more doctors like that. They talked for the next 10 minutes. Michael asked questions about her studies. Elena asked about basketball. Neither of them noticed Roberto watching from behind the counter, smiling at his daughters. Happiness. Orders ready. Roberto called out. Michael stood up. Thanks for letting me sit here. I'm Michael, by the way. Elena, she said. Elena Martinez. Nice to meet you, Elena Martinez. Michael paid for his food and headed for the door. But he stopped and turned back. Elena. Yes. Would it be okay if I came back tomorrow? I mean, for dinner. Not just to pick up food. Elena's heart skipped. We're open every night until 9. Great. I'll see you tomorrow then. After Michael left, Roberto walked over to Elena's table. Nice boy, he said in Spanish. Papa, we just met, Elena said, blushing. Sometimes that's all it takes, Roberto replied. Your mother and I knew after one conversation. Elena tried to go back to studying, but she couldn't focus. She kept thinking about Michael's kind eyes and shy smile. She kept thinking about how he asked questions about her dreams instead of just talking about himself. The next night, Michael came back. This time, he didn't order food to go. He sat at Elena's table and ate dinner while she studied. They talked about everything. School, family, dreams, the future. Tell me about the stars, Michael said, looking out the window. You seem like someone who knows about stars. Elena laughed. What makes you think that? You're smart. You notice things. And you have this way of looking up at the sky when you think. Elena was surprised. She did look at the sky when she thought. She didn't know anyone had noticed. See that group of stars there? Elena pointed out the window. That's Orion, the hunter. What's his story? He was the greatest hunter in the world. He could defeat any creature. But he fell in love with someone he could never have. The gods put him in the sky so he could hunt forever, but he would always be alone. Michael stared at the stars. That's kind of sad. Most love stories are, Elena said softly. Not all of them, Michael said, looking back at her. Some have happy endings. Elena felt her cheeks get warm. How do you know? I don't. But I'm hoping. This became their routine. Every night after basketball practice, Michael would come to Martinez restaurant. He would sit at table 7 and eat dinner while Elena studied. They would talk about everything and nothing. About dreams and fears and the future. Roberto and Maria grew to love Michael like a son. He was polite and respectful. He helped clear tables without being asked. He made their daughter smile in a way they had never seen before. He's a good boy, Maria said to Roberto one night. But he's going places. Big places. Our Elena. She's tied to this place. To us. Roberto nodded sadly. I know. But let them be happy now. The future will take care of itself. As winter turned to spring, Michael and Elena grew closer. They would walk through downtown Wilmington after dinner. They would sit by the Cape Fear River and talk about their dreams. Elena would point out constellations. Michael would tell her about his basketball goals. I want to play in college, Michael said one night. Maybe even the NBA if I'm good enough. You will be, Elena said. I can tell. You have something special. What about you? Where do you want to go to college? Elena's face fell. I don't know if I can go. College is expensive. My parents need help with the restaurant. You have to go, Michael said firmly. You're too smart not to be a doctor. We'll figure out a way. We? Elena asked. Michael took her hand. Yeah, we. If you'll have me. Elena's heart pounded. What are you saying? I'm saying I care about you, Elena Martinez. I'm saying I want to be part of your dreams, and I want you to be part of mine. Under the stars, by the river where they had shared so many conversations, Michael Jordan kissed Elena Martinez for the first time. It was sweet and gentle and full of promise. They were 17 and 16 years old. They thought love could conquer anything. They thought the future was something they could control. They had no idea that sometimes the people we love most are the ones we have to let go. But that heartbreak was still months away. For now, they were just two kids in love, making promises. Under the North Carolina stars, spring melted into summer, and summer bloomed into the most magical year of their lives. Michael and Elena became the couple everyone at Laney High School talked about. Not because they were the most popular or the most dramatic, but because they were real. They genuinely liked each other. They made each other better. Elena came to every single one of Michael's basketball games. She sat in the same spot in the bleachers, Section C, Row 5, Seat 12. She wore his spare jersey over her regular clothes. Number 23. She cheered louder than anyone, even the cheerleaders. "Go Michael," she would shout when he made a shot. "That's my boy." Michael would look up at the stands and find her face. Every time. It didn't matter if he was in the middle of the most important play of the game. He would catch her eye and smile. That smile gave him energy. It made him play harder. After games, while other players went to parties or hung out at the local burger joint, Michael would drive Elena home. They would sit on the front porch of her house and talk about the game. Elena would ask questions about basketball that nobody else ever asked. "Why did you pass the ball to Tommy in the third quarter instead of taking the shot yourself?" she would ask. "Because Tommy had a better angle," Michael would explain. Basketball isn't just about scoring. It's about making the right choice. "That's what I love about you," Elena would say. "You always think about the team." Michael's teammates noticed the change in him. He had always been competitive, but now he played with joy. He smiled more. He encouraged his teammates instead of just pushing them. He was becoming a leader. "Jordan's different this year," said his coach, Pop Herring. "He's got something to play for besides himself." That something was Elena. Michael wanted to impress her. He wanted to make her proud. Every game, every practice, every moment on the court was a chance to show her that her belief in him was worth something. But Elena was changing too. Michael helped her with subjects she struggled with. Math had always been hard for her, but Michael was patient. He would sit with her at table 7 in the restaurant and work through problems step by step. "I don't understand algebra," Elena would say, frustrated. "It's just like following a recipe," Michael would explain. "You follow the steps in order, and you get the right answer. But what if I mess up one step? Then you start over. Just like in basketball. You miss a shot, you take the next one." Michael's confidence rubbed off on Elena. She started raising her hand more in class. She joined the debate team. She even ran for student council and won. "You did that," Elena told Michael one day. "You made me believe I could do anything." "No," Michael said. "I just helped you see what was already there." Elena's family loved Michael more and more each day. He would arrive at the restaurant early to help set up tables. He would stay late to help clean up. He never asked for free food, even though Roberto and Maria would have given him anything. "He's not like other teenage boys," Maria said to Roberto in Spanish one evening. "He thinks about others first." Roberto nodded. "He reminds me of myself. When I was young. When I met you." But it was Elena's little brother Carlos who loved Michael most of all. Carlos was 13 years old and had been dealing with diabetes since he was 8. Some days were good. Some days were bad. On the bad days, when Carlos felt sick and tired, Michael would sit with him for hours. "Tell me about basketball," Carlos would say weekly from his bed. Michael would describe every game, every play, every moment. He would act out the moves, making Carlos laugh even when he felt terrible. "When I make it to the NBA," Michael would say, "you're going to be at my first game. Front row. I promise." Carlos's eyes would light up. "Really? You promise?" "I promise," Michael would say. "You'll be my special guest." During Carlos's worst episode that year, when he had to stay in the hospital for a week, Michael visited every single day. He brought homework from school. He brought comic books. He brought stories about basketball practice. "You're going to be okay, little man," Michael would say. "You're tougher than you think." "Am I as tough as you?" Carlos would ask. "Tougher," Michael would say. "I only have to deal with other basketball players. You have to deal with being sick. That takes real strength." Elena would watch these conversations from the hallway, tears in her eyes. Seeing Michael with her little brother made her love him even more. He wasn't just her boyfriend. He was part of her family. As senior year approached, college scouts started showing up at Michael's games. Men in expensive suits would sit in the stands, taking notes. They would approach Michael after games, handing him business cards and making promises. University of North Carolina wants to meet with you, one scout said. Coach Dean Smith is very interested. Michael's heart raced. North Carolina was his dream school. Coach Smith was a legend. But Michael looked at Elena, and his excitement mixed with worry. What about you? He asked Elena later that night. Where do you want to go? To college. Elena had been accepted to Duke University's pre-med program. It was a full scholarship based on her grades and an essay she wrote about wanting to help underprivileged children. Duke was only 20 miles from Chapel Hill, where North Carolina was located. We could see each other every weekend, Elena said excitedly. Maybe more. We could study together, Michael said. I could help you with math, and you could help me with everything else. They made plans. Beautiful, perfect plans. Michael would play basketball for North Carolina. Elena would study medicine at Duke. They would support each other through college. After graduation, Michael would play professional basketball, and Elena would become a doctor. They would get married. They would have children. They would live happily ever after. It's going to be perfect, Elena said one night as they walked along the Cape Fear River. Better than perfect, Michael said. It's going to be real. They talked about their future constantly. Where they would live. What kind of house they would buy. How many children they wanted. Elena said 3. Michael said 4. They compromised on 3, but with the possibility of 4. I want our kids to be smart like you, Michael said. I want them to be determined like you, Elena replied. They'll be both, Michael said. The best of both of us. That winter, Michael led Laney High School to the state championship game. Elena was there, of course, in Section C, Row 5, Seat 12. She wore his jersey and cheered until her voice was hoarse. Michael played the game of his life. 32 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists. But more importantly, he played for something bigger than himself. He played for Elena, for Carlos, for the family that had welcomed him with open arms. Laney won the championship. As confetti fell from the ceiling and his teammates celebrated, Michael ran straight to the stands. He climbed up to Elena's section and hugged her tight. We did it, he said, lifting her off her feet. You did it, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. We, Michael insisted. Everything I do is we now. That night, they celebrated at Martinez Restaurant. Roberto closed the restaurant to customers and cooked a feast just for the team. Carlos, feeling strong that day, stayed up late to celebrate. With everyone. Speech, someone shouted. Michael stood up, holding Elena's hand. A year ago, I was just a kid who was pretty good at basketball. But this year, I learned something more important than how to make shots or win games. I learned that having people who believe in you makes you capable of anything. He looked at Elena. I learned that love makes you better. Not just as a player, but as a person. Everyone cheered. Elena blushed. Carlos clapped loudly from his seat. And I learned that some promises are worth keeping forever, Michael continued. So I'm making a promise right now, in front of everyone. Elena Martinez, I promise to love you forever. I promise to make our dreams come true together. Elena stood up and kissed him. It was the kind of kiss that made everyone in the room believe in love. The kind of kiss that made Carlos cheer even louder. The kind of kiss that made Roberto and Maria remember what it felt like to be young. That night, as they walked home under the stars, Elena pointed up at Orion. Look, she said. The hunter found his love. Michael looked up at the constellation. How do you know? Because he's not alone anymore, Elena said. He has us watching him. Michael squeezed her hand. We're going to make it, Elena. All of it. College, careers, everything. We're going to prove that young love can last forever. Elena believed him. With all her heart, she believed him. But sometimes, the universe has different plans. Sometimes, the people we love most are the ones we have to save by letting them go. The perfect year was almost over. And with it, the innocence that made their love so pure. Soon, Elena would face a choice that would change everything. Soon, she would have to decide between her dreams and her family, between her future and her heart. Soon, the real world would crash into their perfect love story, but not yet. For now, they were still just 2 kids in love, making promises under the North Carolina stars, believing that love could conquer anything. Spring arrived early that year, but Elena barely noticed the flowers blooming outside her bedroom window. She was too busy studying for final exams and planning for college. Duke University had sent her a thick packet of information about her scholarship. Dorm assignments, class schedules, a list of books to buy. "Look at this, Michael," she said excitedly, spreading the papers across table 7 at the restaurant. "I'm going to take chemistry, biology, calculus, and English literature in my first semester." Michael smiled as he looked at her schedule. "That's a lot of hard classes." "I can handle it," Elena said confidently. "And you'll be only 20 miles away. We can study together on weekends." "I can't wait," Michael said. "College is going to be amazing." Michael had officially committed to the University of North Carolina. Coach Dean Smith had visited their house twice. He promised Michael would get playing time as a freshman. He talked about championships and NBA scouts and bright futures. Everything was perfect. Almost too perfect. That's when life decided to remind them that they were still just teenagers with no control over the world around them. It started on a Tuesday morning in April. Elena's father, Roberto, was preparing for the breakfast rush. At the restaurant, he was lifting a heavy box of supplies when the pain hit him like lightning. Sharp, crushing pain in his chest that dropped him to his knees. "Roberto!" Maria screamed from the kitchen. The ambulance arrived 12 minutes later. Elena met them at the hospital, still wearing her school clothes. She held her mother's hand in the waiting room while doctors worked on her father. "Heart attack," the doctor told them 3 hours later. "A serious one. He's stable now, but he'll need surgery. And lots of rest." Elena felt her world tilt sideways. How long will he be in the hospital? At least 2 weeks. Maybe more. And he won't be able to work for months. Elena's mind raced. The restaurant was their only source of income. Her father worked 16 hours a day to keep it running. Her mother cooked, but she couldn't run the whole business alone. And Carlos's medical bills were already expensive. That night, Elena sat beside her father's hospital bed. Roberto looked small and fragile under the white sheets. Nothing like the strong man who had carried their family from Mexico to North Carolina. "Papa," Elena whispered. "How are you feeling?" Roberto opened his eyes slowly, like an old fool who tried to lift too much. "Don't say that. You're going to be fine." Roberto took her hand. His grip was weak. "Elena, mi amor, we need to talk about practical things." "Not now, Papa. You need to rest." "Listen to me," Roberto said firmly. "The restaurant will close if we can't run it. We have no savings. All our money goes to Carlos's medicine and your college fund." Elena's stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you might need to stay home for a year. Help your mother run the restaurant. Save money. You can go to college next year." "No," Elena said quickly. "No, Papa. I'll find another way. I'll get a job. I'll work nights." "With what time?" "You'll be a full-time student. College is not like high school, Mija. It's harder. You need to focus." Elena felt tears building in her eyes. There has to be another way. Roberto squeezed her hand. Sometimes life gives us choices we don't want to make. That night, Elena called Michael from the hospital payphone. She told him about her father's heart attack, about the restaurant, about the impossible choice facing her family. "I'll come right over," Michael said. "No, visiting hours are over. I'm going home soon. Then I'll meet you there." Michael arrived at Elena's house 20 minutes later. They sat on the front porch where they had shared so many conversations. But this time, there was no joy in their voices. "There has to be something we can do," Michael said. "Maybe I can get a job too. Help with money." "You're going to college on a basketball scholarship," Elena said. "You can't work. It's against the rules." "Then I'll quit basketball. Get a regular job." "Michael, no." Elena's voice was sharp. "You have a gift. You can't waste it for me. It's not wasting it if it's for the people I love." Elena turned to face him. Even in the dim porch light, she could see the determination in his eyes. This was the same look he got during basketball games when he refused to give up. "Michael, listen to me," Elena said carefully. "If you give up basketball for me, I'll never forgive myself. Your dreams are too important. You're more important than any dream." "No, I'm not. And that's not how love works. Real love means wanting the best for the other person, even if it's hard." They argued for 2 hours. Michael begged Elena to reconsider. He said they could find another way. They could take out loans. He could ask his parents for money. Elena could go to community college for 2 years, then transfer, but Elena knew the truth. Community college cost money they didn't have. Loans had to be paid back, and with what job? Her father might never fully recover. Carlos's medical bills would continue. Her mother couldn't run the restaurant alone. "I've made up my mind," Elena finally said. "I'm going to defer my scholarship for a year. Work at the restaurant. Save money. Take care of my family." "What about us?" Michael asked quietly. "What about us? I mean, if you're not going to Duke, if you're staying here, what does that mean for us?" Elena felt her heart breaking. She had been avoiding this question all evening. "I don't know. We can make it work," Michael said desperately. "I'll come home every weekend. We'll talk on the phone every night. It's just 1 year. Michael, you'll be at one of the best colleges in the country. You'll meet new people, make new friends. You'll have opportunities. I can't even imagine. I don't want other opportunities. I want you." Elena started crying. "And I want you. But wanting something doesn't make it possible. Why are you giving up on us?" "I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. You're going to a different world. A world where you can become everything you're meant to be. I can't be the thing that holds you back." Michael stood up, frustrated. "You're not holding me back. You're what pushes me forward. Now, yes. But what about in 6 months? What about when you're playing in front of thousands of people? What about when NBA scouts are watching your games? Will you still want to drive 4 hours every weekend to see your high school girlfriend?" "Yes," Michael said without hesitation. "Yes, I will." Elena wanted to believe him. Every part of her heart wanted to believe that their love was strong enough to survive anything. But she had seen what happened to high school couples who went to different colleges. She had watched her older cousin cry for months when her boyfriend found someone new at his university. "Michael, you don't understand what you're asking me to do." "What am I asking you to do?" "You're asking me to wait. To put my life on hold while you go live yours. To sit here in Wilmington, working at my family's restaurant, wondering if you still love me. Wondering if you've met someone smarter, prettier, better than me. There is no one better than you. You don't know that. You haven't met everyone else yet." They sat in silence for a long time, both of them crying. Both of them knowing that their perfect love story was crashing into the real world. "So what happens now?" Michael asked. "Now you go to college. You play basketball. You become the amazing person you're meant to be. And you." Elena wiped her tears. "I take care of my family. I work hard. I save money. Maybe I go to college someday. Maybe I don't." "Elena, you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll go to college eventually. Promise me you won't give up on being a doctor." Elena looked at him through her tears. Even now, facing the end of their relationship, Michael was thinking about her dreams. "I promise I'll try," she said. "Not try. Promise. I promise." Michael took her hands. "I promise something too. I promise that no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, I'll never forget you. I'll never forget what we had. And if there's ever a way for me to help you reach your dreams, I'll do it. Michael, promise me you'll let me help if I can." Elena nodded, unable to speak. They held each other on that porch until sunrise, both knowing it was the beginning of the end. Both knowing that sometimes loving someone means letting them go. Neither of them knew that in 43 years, they would be connected by that promise in ways they couldn't imagine. The night before Michael left for college was the longest night of their lives. They had spent the past 3 months trying to pretend everything was normal. Michael still came to the restaurant every evening. Elena still sat at table 7, but instead of studying for college, she was learning how to run the family business. Roberto was recovering slowly. The heart surgery had been successful, but he tired easily. Some days he could work for a few hours. Other days he stayed in bed, frustrated and worried about money. Elena had taken over the ordering, the scheduling, the bookkeeping. At 17, she was running a restaurant. "You're getting good at this," Michael said one evening, watching Elena count the day's earnings. "I hate it," Elena said quietly. "I mean, I love the restaurant. I love helping my family. But this isn't what I wanted to do with my life." "It's only temporary," Michael said. 1 year, remember? Then you'll go to Duke." Elena didn't answer. They both knew that 1 year was probably impossible. Medical bills were piling up. Carlos needed new medicine that insurance didn't cover. The restaurant was barely breaking even. 1 year could easily become 2, or 3, or forever. "Let's not talk about it tonight," Elena said. "Tomorrow you leave. Tonight, let's just be us." They closed the restaurant together, turning off the lights and locking the front door. Then they walked to their special place, the old basketball court behind the elementary school where Michael had first taught Elena to shoot. The court was cracked and weedy. The hoops were rusted. Paint peeled from the backboards. But under the stars, it felt magical. It was their place. Their sanctuary. Michael had brought something with him. A small box wrapped in newspaper. "I got you something," he said, sitting on the old wooden bench. Elena sat beside him. "Michael," we agreed. "No gifts. We don't have money for gifts. It didn't cost anything. I made it." Elena unwrapped the box carefully. Inside was a small wooden star, carved by hand. It was rough around the edges, but beautiful in its simplicity. "You made this?" Elena asked, touched. "In shop class. Mr. Martinez helped me with the tools." Michael's cheeks turned red. "I know. It's not very good." "It's perfect," Elena said, holding the star up to catch the moonlight. "But why a star?" "Because of Orion. Remember? You told me he was the hunter who could never have the one he loved. But you said the gods put him in the sky so he could hunt forever." Elena nodded, remembering. "I want to be like Orion," Michael continued. "I want to be the hunter who never gives up. No matter how far apart we are, no matter how long it takes, I'm going to keep hunting for a way back to you." Elena felt tears start to fall. "Michael, let me finish. Please. I need to say this." Elena nodded, clutching the wooden star. Michael took her hands and looked directly into her eyes. In the starlight, his face was serious and determined. "Elena Martinez, I want to make you a promise. Not just a regular promise. A promise that I'll keep no matter what happens to me. No matter how famous I get or how much money I make or how many years go by." "What kind of promise?" Elena whispered. "I promise that when I make it big, and I will make it big, I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to take care of your family the way they took care of me. Carlos will get the best doctors in the world. Your parents will never have to worry about money again. The restaurant will be successful and beautiful." Elena's tears were flowing freely now. "Michael, you can't promise things like that. You don't know what the future holds." "I'm not finished," Michael said gently. "And you're going to medical school. I promise you that. Duke or Harvard or wherever you want to go. I'll pay for everything. Books, tuition, room and board. Everything. You're going to be the best doctor in the world, and I'm going to make sure you have that chance." "That's too much," Elena sobbed. "You can't promise to fix everyone's life." "Yes, I can. Because I love you. Because your family saved me. Because you made me believe I could be something special." Michael's voice was strong and sure. "I know I'm just 18 years old. I know I haven't done anything yet. But I feel it, Elena. In my bones. I'm going to make it. And when I do, I'm going to come back for you." Elena wanted to tell him it was impossible. She wanted to explain that life didn't work like fairy tales. That poor kids from North Carolina didn't become rich and famous. That promises made at 18 usually got broken by 20. But looking at Michael's face in the starlight, seeing the absolute certainty in his eyes, she almost believed him. "There's one more thing," Michael said. "The most important part." "What?" "I know I love you. I know. I'll never love anyone else the way I love you. You're not just my girlfriend, Elena. You're my heart. You're the reason I want to be better." Michael's voice cracked. "So I promise you this. I'll wait for you. No matter how long it takes. No matter what happens. When you're ready, when your family is safe, when you've had a chance to chase your dreams, I'll be here. Waiting." Elena couldn't speak. The promise was too big, too beautiful, too impossible. "All I need from you," Michael continued, "is one promise back." "What?" Elena managed to whisper. "Promise me you'll wait as long as you can. I know I'm asking a lot. I know it's not fair. But promise me you won't give up on us. Promise me you'll hold on to this love, even when it seems impossible." Elena looked up at the stars. At Orion, the hunter who loved someone he couldn't have. At the wooden star in her hands, carved by a boy who believed in miracles. "I promise," she whispered. "I'll wait as long as I can." Michael kissed her then, under the stars, on the old basketball court where they had shared so many dreams. It was a kiss full of love and hope and desperate sadness. A kiss that tasted like goodbye and forever at the same time. They spent the rest of the night talking about everything and nothing. About their first meeting at the restaurant. About the championship game. About all the small moments that had made their love story special. As dawn broke over Wilmington, they walked back to Elena's house hand in hand. Michael's car was packed and ready. His parents were waiting to drive him to Chapel Hill. "This isn't goodbye," Michael said, holding Elena on her front porch. "This is just see you later." See you later, Elena repeated, even though it felt like the biggest lie she had ever told. Michael got in the car. Elena watched from the porch as they drove away. She stood there long after the car disappeared, holding the wooden star he had made for her. Neither of them knew that it would be 43 years before they saw each other again. Neither of them knew that Michael would keep his promise in ways Elena never imagined. Neither of them knew that. Their love story was just beginning, not ending, but the wooden star knew. Somehow, the small carved star that caught the morning light in Elena's hands knew that some promises are too big to break, even when the people who make them forget they ever made them. The star knew that love finds a way, even across decades of silence. The star knew that Michael Jordan would become exactly what he promised to become, and the star knew that someday, on live television, the truth of that promise would break millions of hearts around the world. College hit Michael like a freight train. The University of North Carolina was bigger, faster, and more competitive than anything he had ever experienced. Chapel Hill wasn't just a college town, it was a basketball kingdom. And everyone expected the skinny kid from Wilmington to prove he belonged. His dorm room was tiny. His roommate, a pre-med student named Marcus, studied 18 hours a day and barely spoke. The dining hall food was terrible. The classes were harder than anything at Laney High School. And basketball practice? Coach Dean Smith ran practice like a military operation, but Michael threw himself into everything with desperate intensity. Every sprint, every drill, every study session was fuel for the promise he had made to Elena. He carried her wooden star in his pocket everywhere he went. At night, lying in his narrow dorm bed, he would hold it and remember her face that he wrote Elena letters every single day. Long letters about his classes, his teammates, his dreams. He told her about the other players who were bigger and stronger and more experienced. He told her about his fears and his hopes. He told her he missed her every second of every day. Dear Elena, his first letter began. I've been here 3 days, and it feels like 3 years. Everything is different, but one thing stays the same. I love you. I love you more than yesterday, which I didn't think was possible. Elena wrote back, but her letters were different. Shorter, sadder. She told him about the restaurant, about her father's slow recovery, about Carlos's good days and bad days. She tried to sound cheerful, but Michael could read between the lines. She was exhausted. She was overwhelmed. She was growing up too fast. Dear Michael, one of her letters said, I'm proud of you for making the team. I knew you would. Things here are fine. Papa worked 4 hours today without getting tired. Carlos had a good week. The restaurant is busy. I miss you. That was it. 5 sentences about missing him. Michael read the letter 20 times, looking for hidden meaning. Looking for the girl who used to fill pages with her thoughts and dreams. Meanwhile, college was changing Michael in ways he didn't expect. His teammates came from different worlds. Some were from big cities. Some had played in national tournaments. Some had been recruited by dozens of colleges. Where are you from, Jordan? Asked James Worthy, a junior who was already being talked about for the NBA. Wilmington, Michael said. Never heard of it. James laughed. You got a girlfriend back home? Yeah, Michael said. Elena, we're going to get married someday. The older players exchanged looks. That's cute, freshman. But college girls are different. Smarter, prettier, more sophisticated. I'm not interested. In college girls, Michael said firmly. You will be, said Sam Perkins, another star player. Trust me, high school relationships don't survive college. It's just a fact. Michael wanted to argue, but he didn't. He just gripped Elena's wooden star in his pocket and promised himself he was different. His love was different, but as weeks turned into months, the distance started to take its toll. Michael called Elena every Sunday at exactly 8 p.m. In the beginning, they talked for hours. About everything and nothing. About their days and their dreams and their future together. But the conversations got shorter. More awkward. Elena was living one life. Working at the restaurant, taking care of her family, dealing with adult responsibilities. Michael was living another, going to classes, playing basketball, making new friends who had never heard of Elena Martinez. How was your week? Michael would ask. Fine, Elena would say. Busy. How was yours? Good. We beat Duke in practice. Coach says I might get playing time in the next game. That's nice. Nice. The word stung. Elena used to get excited about every detail of Michael's basketball career. She used to ask questions and celebrate his successes like they were her own. Now she sounded polite. Distant. Michael tried harder. He sent her flowers for her birthday. He called more often. He even drove home for a weekend in October, spending 8 hours in the car for one day with Elena, but the visit was awkward. Elena was tired from working double shifts. Carlos was having a bad week with his diabetes. Roberto was frustrated about being unable to work full-time. The restaurant felt small and cramped after living in the wide-open spaces of Chapel Hill. "You look different," Elena said as they sat on her front porch. "Different how?" "Older. More. Confident. Like you belong somewhere important." Michael didn't know what to say to that. Was it bad that he was growing up? Was it wrong that he was becoming more confident? "You look tired," he said. "I am tired," Elena admitted. "I'm tired all the time." They spent the evening together, but it felt forced. Like they were both trying to recreate something that had changed. When Michael left the next morning, Elena hugged him goodbye, but it felt like she was hugging a stranger. The phone calls became even more strained after that. Sometimes Elena wasn't home when Michael called. She was working late, her mother would say. Or she was at the hospital with Carlos. Or she was studying. She had enrolled in night classes at the community college, trying to keep her dreams alive. "She's doing her best," Maria told Michael during one of these calls. "But she's carrying a heavy load for such a young girl." Michael wanted to help, but what could he do? He was 18 years old with no money and no power. He was just a freshman basketball player who might not even make it to the NBA. His promises felt hollow and childish. Meanwhile, his basketball career was taking off. He made the varsity team as a freshman, something that rarely happened at North Carolina. He scored the winning shot in the NCAA championship game, becoming a hero overnight. Suddenly, everyone knew his name. Sports reporters wanted to interview him. NBA scouts started showing up at his games. "Tell us about your motivation," one reporter asked after a big win. "What drives you to play so hard?" "I made a promise to someone special," Michael said, thinking of Elena. "I promised I'd make it big. I promised I'd take care of the people I love." The reporter nodded and wrote it down, but Michael could tell he thought it was just a nice story. Nobody understood that the promise was real, that it was the only thing keeping Michael going when practice got brutal or classes got overwhelming. But keeping the promise was getting harder. Elena's letters came less frequently. When she did write, they were mostly updates about family, business, nothing personal, nothing about their future together. The final blow came in February of Michael's sophomore year. He had called Elena every Sunday for 2 years. But this Sunday, when he dialed her number, a recording said the phone had been disconnected. Michael panicked. He called the restaurant. A stranger answered. "Martinez Restaurant," the voice said. "Is Elena there?" Michael asked. "Elena? No, Elena works here. This is Wilson's Diner now." Michael's heart stopped. What happened to the Martinez family? Don't know. Place changed hands about a month ago. Michael hung up and immediately called information. No listing for Roberto Martinez in Wilmington. No listing for Elena Martinez. It was like they had vanished. He called his parents. He called old friends from high school. He called the hospital where Carlos had been treated. Nobody knew where the Martinez family had gone. "They moved away," his mother told him. "About 3 weeks ago. Nobody knows where." Michael drove home that weekend, desperate for answers. He went to their old house. A different family lived there now. He went to the restaurant. It was completely different. New name, new owners, new everything that he asked everyone he could find. Teachers, neighbors, customers who used to eat at Martinez Restaurant. The story was always the same. Roberto had another heart attack in January. A bad one. The family couldn't afford the medical bills and the restaurant rent. They had sold everything and moved away. Some people thought they went to California. Others said Mexico. Elena's best friend from high school thought they might have gone to live with relatives in Texas. But nobody knew for sure. Michael spent 3 days searching, but Elena Martinez had disappeared completely. The girl he loved, the family that had welcomed him, the promise that had driven him for 2 years. All gone without a trace. He drove back to Chapel Hill feeling like his heart had been ripped out of his chest. Elena hadn't even said goodbye. She hadn't left a forwarding address or a phone number. She had just vanished. That night, alone in his dorm room, Michael held Elena's wooden star and cried for the first time since he was a little boy. He had failed. Despite all his promises and all his determination, he had failed to take care of the people he loved most. His roommate Marcus found him there at 2 a.m., still clutching the wooden star. "You okay, man?" Marcus asked. "No," Michael said. "I'm not okay. I don't think I'll ever be okay again." But Michael was wrong about one thing. He hadn't failed Elena. Miles away, in a small apartment in Charlotte, Elena was crying too, holding a newspaper clipping about Michael's championship-winning shot. Proud of him, missing him, loving him, but knowing she had done the right thing. By letting him go, the wooden star never left Michael's pocket. Even when everything else in his life changed, even when he became the most famous athlete in the world, Elena's carved star stayed with him. It was his reminder, his burden, his motivation. Basketball became Michael's escape from heartbreak. Every practice was a way to forget the empty feeling in his chest. Every game was a chance to prove he was worthy of the promise he couldn't keep. The pain of losing Elena transformed into something else, an unstoppable drive to be perfect. Jordan's different this year, Coach Dean Smith told his assistants. He plays like a man possessed. Coach Smith was right. Michael practiced longer than anyone else. He studied game film until his eyes burned. He pushed his teammates harder, demanded more from himself, never accepted anything less than excellence. "What's gotten into you?" James Worthy asked after a brutal practice where Michael had been especially intense. "I made promises I couldn't keep," Michael said simply. "Now I have to make new ones." His new promise was simple: become so successful, so wealthy, so powerful that he could find Elena and fix everything. He would become the greatest basketball player who ever lived. He would make enough money to solve any problem. And someday, somehow, he would track down the Martinez family and keep every word he had spoken under the North Carolina Stars. The transformation was remarkable. Michael led North Carolina to another championship. He dominated every game, but it wasn't just about scoring points. He made his teammates better. He refused to lose. He played with a desperate intensity that scared opposing teams. After his junior year, Michael declared for the NBA draft. The Chicago Bulls selected him 3rd overall. At 21 years old, he was about to become a professional athlete. He was about to start making real money. That he was about to begin his hunt for Elena. His first NBA contract was for $550,000 a year. To most people, that seemed like all the money in the world. But Michael knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. He needed more. Much more. His rookie year was tough. The Bulls were a bad team. They lost more games than they won. Michael played well, but individual success felt empty when his teammates struggled. Worse, he still had no leads on Elena's whereabouts. He hired his first private investigator that year, a man named Detective Williams who specialized in finding missing persons. "What can you tell me about the family?" Detective Williams asked, sitting in Michael's small Chicago apartment. "Roberto and Maria Martinez. They owned a restaurant in Wilmington, North Carolina. They have a daughter named Elena and a son named Carlos. Carlos has diabetes. Elena wanted to be a doctor." Detective Williams took notes. "When did they disappear?" "February 1982. They moved away suddenly. Medical bills, I think. Roberto had a heart attack. Any idea where they might have gone?" Michael shook his head. "California, maybe. Or Texas. Or back to Mexico. Nobody knows." Detective Williams worked the case for 3 months. He followed every lead, checked every record, contacted every Martinez family he could find. But it was like Elena and her family had vanished from the face of the earth. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jordan," Detective Williams said, returning Michael's money. "They covered their tracks well. Or they changed their names. Either way, I can't find them." Michael hired another investigator. Then another. He spent thousands of dollars and got the same result every time. No trace of the Martinez family anywhere, but Michael refused to give up. As his basketball career took off, as his salary increased, as his fame grew, he poured more and more resources into finding Elena. He hired investigators in every major city. He placed ads in Spanish-language newspapers across the country. He even appeared on Spanish television shows, hoping Elena might be watching. "I'm looking for an old friend named Elena Martinez," he would say during interviews. "If you're out there, Elena, please contact me." But Elena never called. Meanwhile, Michael was becoming exactly what he had promised to become: a legend. His second year in the NBA, he averaged 37 points per game. His third year, he led the Bulls to the playoffs. His fourth year, he won his first MVP award. The more successful he became, the more obsessed he grew with his unfinished promise. He couldn't enjoy his success because Elena wasn't there to share it. He couldn't celebrate his achievements because he had failed at the most important thing. "You need to let it go," his teammate Scottie Pippen told him one day. They had just won a big game, but Michael seemed miserable. "Let what go? Whatever's eating at you. This girl from high school, maybe? You're the best basketball player in the world, man. You've got money, fame, everything. But you always look like you lost something." Michael pulled Elena's wooden star from his pocket and showed it to Scottie. After all these years, it was worn smooth from his constant handling. "I made a promise to someone," Michael said. "I promised to take care of her family. I promised to make sure she became a doctor. I promised to come back for her. High school promises, Mike. Everybody makes them. Nobody keeps them. I'm going to keep mine," Michael said firmly, "even if it takes my whole life." In 1991, Michael finally achieved his greatest basketball goal. The Bulls won the NBA championship. Michael was named Finals MVP. He had reached the mountaintop of his sport, but standing on the podium, holding the championship trophy, Michael felt empty. The moment should have been perfect, but Elena wasn't there to see it. Carlos wasn't there to celebrate with him. Roberto and Maria weren't there to be proud of the boy who used to help clean their restaurant. That night, alone in his hotel room, Michael called Detective Williams again. "Mike, it's been 9 years," Detective Williams said. "Maybe it's time to accept that they don't want to be found." "One more try," Michael begged. "I've got more money now. Better resources. Please." Detective Williams agreed to try again. This time, he had access to better databases, more advanced search techniques. He spent 6 months on the case, following leads across the country. Finally, he found something. "I've got a lead," Detective Williams called to tell Michael. "A Martinez family in Charlotte, North Carolina. Roberto Martinez, heart patient. Son with diabetes. They've been there for about 8 years." Michael's heart raced. "Are you sure it's them?" "I'm not positive. The records are incomplete. But it fits the timeline and the medical history." Michael drove to Charlotte the next day. He found the address Detective Williams had given him, a small apartment complex on the south side of town. He sat in his car for an hour, staring at the building, trying to work up the courage to knock on the door. Finally, he walked to apartment 2B and knocked. A woman answered. She was about the right age, with graying hair and kind eyes. But it wasn't Elena. "Yes?" the woman said. "I'm looking for the Martinez family. Roberto, Maria, Elena, and Carlos." The woman's face went pale. "Who's asking?" "My name is Michael Jordan. I'm an old friend." The woman stared at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head sadly. "You're too late," she said. "Roberto passed away 2 years ago. Another heart attack. Maria moved back to Mexico after the funeral. The children. I don't know where the children went." Michael felt like the ground had opened up beneath him. Roberto was dead. The family was scattered. Elena was still missing. Did Elena ever go to college? Michael asked desperately. "Did she become a doctor?" The woman shrugged. "I'm sorry. I only knew them as neighbors. We didn't talk much." Michael drove back to Chicago in a daze. Another dead end. Another failure. Roberto was gone, and Michael had never gotten the chance to help him. The promise felt more broken than ever. But Michael didn't know the truth. He didn't know that Elena was closer than he realized. He didn't know that she had indeed become a nurse, working her way up at Duke Children's Hospital. He didn't know that Carlos was alive and healthy, teaching elementary school just 50 miles away from where Michael lived. Most importantly, he didn't know that his promise was being kept in ways he couldn't imagine. That his success, his wealth, his charitable foundation were already touching Elena's life every single day. Elena knew, though. She watched his games on television. She read about his championships in the newspaper. She was proud of the man he had become, even as her heart broke knowing she couldn't be part of his world. Every night, she looked up at the stars and thought about the wooden star he had carved for her. She had kept it all these years, moving it from apartment to apartment, city to city. It sat on her nightstand, a reminder of the love that had shaped both their lives. Neither of them knew that their story was far from over. Neither of them knew that love finds a way. Even across decades of silence and separation, the hunter was still hunting. The star was still shining, and the promise was still alive, waiting for its moment to be fulfilled. Time moved differently. For legends. For Michael Jordan, The years blurred together in a whirlwind of championships, endorsement deals, and global fame. 6 NBA titles, 5 MVP awards, 14 All-Star games. His face on billboards from Chicago to Tokyo. His shoes on the feet of children worldwide. But every night, before he went to sleep, Michael would hold Elena's wooden star and wonder where she was. The 1990s made Michael the most recognizable athlete on Earth. Kids in remote villages knew his name. Presidents invited him to the White House. Movie stars wanted to meet him. He had everything a person could want, except the one thing that mattered most. You should settle down, his mother, Dolores, told him during a family dinner. Find a nice woman. Start a family. Michael was 30 years old and had dated many women. Actresses, models, successful businesswomen. But he measured them all against a memory of a 16-year-old girl who pointed out constellations and dreamed of being a doctor. I'm not ready, Michael would always say. But eventually, loneliness won. In 1989, Michael married Juanita Vanoy, a beautiful and intelligent woman who understood the demands of his career. They had 3 children together, Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jasmine. Michael loved his family deeply, but part of his heart remained locked away, belonging to a ghost from his past. Juanita knew. Wives always know. You're thinking about her again, Juanita would say sometimes, watching Michael stare out the window. About who? Whoever she was. The one who came before me. Michael never told Juanita about Elena. How could he explain that? He was married to one woman, but had promised his heart to another? How could he describe a teenage love that still burned after 15 years? Instead, Michael poured his energy into his foundation. The Jordan Family Foundation started small in 1989, but grew rapidly as Michael's wealth increased. They built basketball courts in poor neighborhoods. They provided scholarships for underprivileged students. They funded medical research and children's hospitals. What causes are most important to you? Asked the foundation's director, a young woman named Sarah Collins. Education, Michael said immediately, especially medical education, and children's health care. Kids with diabetes, heart conditions, things like that. Sarah nodded and made notes. She had no idea that Michael was thinking about a boy named Carlos who used to get sick while his sister studied medical textbooks at a restaurant table. The foundation grew into one of the largest charitable organizations in sports. By the mid-1990s, they were donating millions of dollars every year. Michael insisted on staying involved in every major decision. This application is from Duke Children's Hospital, Sarah told Michael during one of their monthly meetings. They want funding for a new pediatric wing. Michael's heart skipped. Duke, Elena's dream school. What do they need? $3 million over 5 years. They're treating children from low-income families. Kids who can't afford proper medical care. Approve it, Michael said without hesitation. Full funding. Don't you want a review? The details? No. Whatever Duke Children's Hospital needs, we give them. Michael visited Duke Children's Hospital personally to announce the donation. He walked through the halls, met with doctors and nurses, saw children who reminded him of Carlos. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered if Elena might be there. If she had somehow made it to medical school after all, but he didn't see her. He didn't know that Elena Martinez was working just 2 floors above him, running the pediatric nursing department. She had heard about his visit, had even watched from an upstairs window as he left the building. But she stayed hidden. She had built a life, and she couldn't risk destroying it for a ghost from her past. Elena had indeed found her way to Duke, though not as she had originally planned. After her family moved to Charlotte, Elena worked as a nurse's aide while taking night classes. She earned her nursing degree slowly, 1 class at a time. It took 8 years, but she graduated with honors. She applied to Duke Children's Hospital and was hired immediately. Her supervisors noticed something special about her. She connected with sick children in a way that seemed almost magical. She made them laugh during painful procedures. She held their hands when they were scared. She fought for better care when insurance companies said no. Elena has a gift, the head of pediatrics told the hospital director. The children trust her completely. Elena rose through the ranks. Nurse's aide to registered nurse to charge nurse to supervisor. By 1995, she was head of the pediatric nursing department. She had her own office, her own budget, her own team of nurses to manage. She had never become a doctor, but she was saving children's lives every day. Elena had also married David Chun was a kind pediatrician who worked at the same hospital. They met during a difficult case, a little girl with leukemia whose family couldn't afford treatment. Elena had fought to get the girl into a special program. David had provided the medical care. Together, they had saved the child's life. "You're remarkable," David told Elena after the little girl went into remission. Elena smiled sadly. "I just believe every child deserves a chance." David fell in love with Elena's dedication, her compassion, her fierce protection of vulnerable children. Elena fell in love with David's kindness, his stability, his gentle way of caring for sick kids. They married in 1993. Elena kept her last name professionally. She was known throughout the hospital as Nurse Martinez. David understood. Her identity was tied to her work, her mission to help children who couldn't help themselves. Elena and David had two daughters, Sophia and Isabella. Elena was a devoted mother, but she couldn't help seeing Michael's face in every little boy who came through the hospital. She couldn't help thinking of Carlos every time she treated a child with diabetes. Carlos had survived. He was living in Raleigh now, teaching third grade. His diabetes was well controlled, thanks to excellent medical care that Elena had somehow managed to afford over the years. Carlos often wondered how his sister had found the money for his treatments, but Elena always just said, "I work at a good hospital. We have programs." Elena never told Carlos that many of his medical bills had been paid by anonymous donations from something called the Jordan Family Foundation. She never mentioned that her salary increases, her department's new equipment, her hospital's expansion. All of it was connected to a foundation run by a man she used to love. She knew, though. Elena followed Michael's career obsessively. She watched every game she could. She read every article about his foundation's charitable work. She saw his wedding announcement in the newspaper and cried for 3 days. She celebrated his championships from afar, proud of the man he had become. Sometimes, late at night, Elena would take out the wooden star Michael had carved for her. She kept it in her jewelry box, wrapped in tissue paper. She would hold it and remember the boy who had promised to change the world for her. He had kept his promise. He just didn't know it. Michael's foundation had become the largest single donor to Duke Children's Hospital. Elena's department received new funding every year. Her salary had doubled since 1995, though she thought it was due to her performance reviews. The hospital's new pediatric equipment, the expanded programs for low-income families, the research grants that led to breakthrough treatments, all of it funded by the Jordan Family Foundation. All of it approved personally by Michael Jordan, who still carried a wooden star in his pocket and wondered if the girl who made it was helping children somewhere. Elena and Michael were partners in saving lives. They just didn't know it. Two people who had loved each other as teenagers were now working together as adults to keep the promise Michael had made under the North Carolina stars. They were taking care of children who couldn't take care of themselves. They were making sure sick kids got the medical care they needed. They were keeping faith with their teenage selves. Even though they hadn't spoken in 20 years, the wooden star knew. Somehow, the small carved piece of wood knew that love finds a way to keep its promises, even across decades of silence. The future arrived in Durham on a Tuesday in October 2023, wearing a black Tesla t-shirt and asking questions that nobody expected. Elon Musk was visiting Duke Children's Hospital to announce a major donation from his Neuralink company. The technology would help children with brain injuries communicate with their families. It was groundbreaking work, and Elena Martinez had been chosen to give Elon a tour of the pediatric department. "Mrs. Martinez, is it?" Elon asked as they walked through the brightly colored halls. "Yes, but please call me Elena. I've been head of pediatric nursing here for 15 years. Elon stopped walking. "Elena Martinez? That's an interesting name. Are you from North Carolina originally?" "Yes, from Wilmington. But I've been in the Durham area since the early 80s. Elon's eyes lit up with sudden interest. "Wilmington in the 80s. Did you happen to know a basketball player named Michael Jordan?" Elena's face went pale. After all these years, she still wasn't prepared to hear his name spoken aloud. "Why do you ask? Call it curiosity. I'm a bit of a romantic, you see. I believe in the power of lost connections. And Michael Jordan once told me a story about a girl named Elena Martinez who changed his life." Elena stopped walking entirely. Other hospital staff continued moving around them, but she felt frozen in time. "Michael told you about me?" "Oh yes. We were at a charity event a few years ago. He'd had a few drinks, which is rare for him. Started talking about his biggest regret. A promise he made to a girl from high school. A girl who wanted to be a doctor. Elena's hands started shaking. What did he say? Elon studied her face carefully. He said he'd promised to take care of her family. Promised to make sure she achieved her dreams. But when he became successful, he couldn't find her. She disappeared completely. I didn't disappear, Elena said quietly. I just moved on. Did you? Because from what I can see, you're head of pediatrics at one of the best children's hospitals in the country. You're saving lives every day? That sounds like someone who achieved their dreams to me. Elena shook her head. I never became a doctor. I'm just a nurse. Just a nurse? Elon laughed. Elena, do you know how this hospital is funded? Do you know why your department has the best equipment, the highest salaries, the most advanced treatment programs? Elena had always wondered about that. Duke Children's Hospital seemed to have unlimited resources compared to other hospitals. Good donations, I suppose. Very good donations. Specifically, from the Jordan Family Foundation. Your hospital is their largest single recipient. Has been for almost 20 years. Elena felt the world tilt around her. What are you saying? I'm saying that Michael Jordan has been keeping his promise to you for decades. Your salary, your department's funding, your hospital's expansion, it's all connected to his foundation. He's been taking care of you without either of you knowing it. Elena sank into a nearby chair. Children's artwork covered the walls around them, cheerful drawings of rainbows and families and hope. But Elena could barely see them through her tears. That's impossible, she whispered. Is it? Think about it. When did your career really take off? When did this hospital start getting major donations? I'm willing to bet it coincides exactly with Michael's NBA success. Elena's mind raced back through the years. Her promotion to head nurse in 1995, the same year Michael won his fourth championship. The new pediatric wing that opened in 1998, right after Michael won his sixth title. The salary increases, the equipment upgrades, the expanded programs for low-income families. He doesn't know, Elena said. He can't know it's me. He doesn't. His foundation director handles most applications. But think about the causes he supports. Medical education for underprivileged students. Children's health care. Diabetes research. Does that sound familiar? Elena thought about Carlos, whose medical bills had somehow always been covered by hospital programs. She thought about the scholarships her daughters had received for college, anonymous donations from charitable foundations. Oh my God, Elena breathed. He's been taking care of all of us. Elon nodded. The boy who promised to help your family has been doing exactly that for 25 years. He just doesn't know he succeeded. Why are you telling me this? Elon sat down beside her. Because Michael Jordan is turning 60 next year. And despite all his success, despite all his wealth and fame, he's one of the saddest men I've ever met. He carries around this sense of failure, this belief that he broke the most important promise he ever made. But I broke my promise too. Elena said, I promised to wait for him. I promised to hold on to our love. Did you? You married a good man who helps children. You dedicated your life to healing sick kids. You kept the best parts of who you were when you loved Michael. That sounds like keeping faith to me. Elena wiped her tears. What do you want from me? I want to give you both a gift. Michael's 60th birthday is in February. ESPN is planning a special interview, a retrospective on his life and career. I don't see how I fit into that. Elon smiled. What if you could ask him one question? Live on television. Just one question that might help him understand that he didn't fail. That his promise was kept in ways he never imagined. Elena felt her heart racing. I couldn't. I have a family. A life. I can't just appear on television and disrupt everything. You wouldn't be disrupting anything. You'd be completing something. A circle that's been open for 43 years. Elena thought about David, her kind husband who had always known there was a part of her heart he couldn't reach. She thought about her daughters, who deserved to know the full truth about their mother's past. She thought about Carlos, who had survived his illness thanks to mysterious programs that had always seemed too good to be true. What would I ask him? Elena said, that's up to you. But maybe something about promises. About whether he remembers the one he made to a girl named Elena Martinez. Elena closed her eyes and saw herself at 17, sitting in a restaurant booth covered with medical textbooks, watching a shy basketball player walk through the door. She saw herself at 16, holding a wooden star under the North Carolina sky, listening to a boy promise to change the world for her. He had changed the world, just not in the way either of them expected. He probably doesn't even remember me, Elena said. Elena, the man carries a wooden star in his pocket everywhere he goes. After 43 years. Trust me, he remembers. Elena's breath caught. He still has the star. Never takes it out of his pocket. His teammates used to tease him about it. His wife asked about it. He never explained it to anyone. Just said it was a reminder of a promise he made. Elena thought about her own wooden star, sitting in her jewelry box at home. Two pieces of the same love story, carried by two people who had never stopped caring about each other. If I did this, Elena said slowly, if I agreed to be on this show, what would happen afterward? I don't know, Elon admitted. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But don't you think you both deserve to know the truth? Don't you think Michael deserves to know that his promise was kept? Elena looked around the hospital hallway. Children's laughter echoed from nearby rooms. Nurses hurried past, carrying medicines and hope. Doctors consulted quietly about treatment plans. This was the world she had helped build. This was the life she had created from the ashes of her broken teenage dreams. And Michael had been her partner in building it, even though neither of them knew. One question, Elena said finally. Just one. Elon's smile was brilliant. Just one. But it might be the most important question either of you ever hear. Elena nodded, tears streaming down her face. After 43 years of silence, she was going to speak to Michael Jordan again. She was going to ask him about a promise that had shaped both their lives. She was going to complete the circle that had begun under the North Carolina stars, when two teenagers believed that love could conquer anything. And maybe, just maybe, they had been right all along. The makeup artist powdered Elena's nose one more time, but nothing could hide the nervous tremor in her hands. She sat in the small cafe in Durham that ESPN had chosen for her satellite connection, surrounded by cameras and lights and people she didn't know. 5 minutes, Mrs. Martinez, the director called out. Elena closed her eyes and tried to calm her racing heart. In her purse was the wooden star Michael had carved for her 43 years ago. She had brought it for courage, though she wasn't sure why. This wasn't supposed to be about rekindling old romance. This was about giving Michael peace at least. That's what she kept telling herself. 60 miles away in the ESPN studio in Charlotte, Michael Jordan sat in his familiar chair, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. To him, this was just another birthday interview. Another chance to talk about championships and teammates and the good old days. Happy 60th birthday, Michael, Sarachin said, smiling warmly. 6 decades of an incredible life. When you look back, what are you most proud of? Michael gave his standard answer about teamwork and hard work and never giving up. But Elena, watching from the cafe, could see something different in his eyes. A sadness that hadn't been there when he was young. The weight of years and unfulfilled promises. Let's talk about regrets, Sarah said, and Elena felt her stomach clench. This was Elon's plan. Sarah knew exactly what she was doing. Michael shifted uncomfortably. I don't dwell on regrets. I focus on what I can control. But surely there are moments you'd handle differently? Choices you'd make again. Michael's hand moved unconsciously to his pocket, where Elena knew he kept the wooden star. Everyone has regrets, Sarah, but dwelling on them doesn't change anything. Elena watched his face on the monitor in front of her. Even after all these years, she could read his expressions. He was thinking about her. About them. About the promise he believed he had broken. Michael, Sarah said gently, we want to try something different today. We've reached out to people from your past. People who knew you before the fame. Michael's body went rigid. What kind of people? Someone special. Someone who knew the boy behind the legend. Elena's heart hammered as she watched Michael's face change. The confident smile disappeared. His eyes became guarded, almost afraid. Sarah, I don't know what this is about, but, Michael, there's someone watching today who has something to say to you. Someone from Wilmington. The color drained from Michael's face. Elena could see him grip the arms of his chair, his knuckles turning white. No, Michael said quietly. Don't do this. But it was too late. The director was counting down in Elena's ear. You're live in 3, 2, 1. The screen in the studio flickered to life, and suddenly Elena was there. Older, with silver-streaked hair and laugh lines around her eyes, but unmistakably her. The girl Michael had loved with all his teenage heart. "Hello, Michael," Elena said softly. For 30 seconds, Michael couldn't speak. He stared at the screen like he was seeing a ghost. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, he whispered, "Elena." "It's been a long time," Elena said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she spoke. "Hi, how are you?" Michael managed. Are you okay?" Elena smiled, and for a moment, 43 years fell away. "I'm well, Michael. I'm a nurse now, head of pediatrics at Duke Children's Hospital. I have 2 daughters. I've built a good life." "I'm glad," Michael said, and Elena could hear the tears in his voice. "I looked for you. For years, I looked for you. I hired investigators. I never stopped looking." "I know," Elena said gently, "and I never stopped watching. I saw every championship. I celebrated every victory. I'm so proud of the man you became." Michael's composure finally cracked. "Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I failed you. I promised I would take care of your family, and I failed." "No, Michael," Elena said firmly. "You didn't fail." "Yes, I did. Your father died, and I wasn't there. Your family scattered, and I couldn't find you. I couldn't keep my promise." Elena took a deep breath. This was the moment. The reason she was here. "Michael, I need to ask you something. It's been eating at me for 43 years. Michael leaned forward, hanging on every word. "What is it?" Elena looked directly into the camera, speaking to the boy she had loved and the man he had become. "Do you remember the promise you made to me the night before you left for college? The one about us?" Michael's face went completely pale. His hands started shaking visibly. The question hung in the air like a basketball at the peak of its arc. "The promise," Michael whispered, his voice barely audible. "Do you remember what you promised me?" Elena asked. Michael stared at her through the screen, and Elena could see him traveling back in time. Back to that basketball court under the stars. Back to 2 teenagers who believed love could conquer anything. "I promised to come back for you," Michael said slowly. "I promised to take care of your family. Carlos, your parents. I promised you'd go to medical school. I promised to wait for you. And did you keep that promise?" Elena asked. Michael's voice broke. "No, I failed. I couldn't find you. I couldn't help your family. I couldn't." "Michael," Elena interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "You kept every single promise you made to me. Every one." Michael shook his head. "That's not true. I failed you." "No, you didn't. Do you know how my hospital is funded? Do you know who pays for the equipment that saves children's lives every day? Do you know who provided the scholarships for my daughter's education?" Michael looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "The Jordan Family Foundation, Michael. Your foundation has been the largest donor to Duke Children's Hospital for 20 years. My salary, my department's funding, the programs that help poor children get medical care, it all comes from you." Michael's mouth fell open. That's impossible. Carlos is alive because of programs your foundation funded. My daughters went to college because of scholarships you provided. I became head of pediatric nursing because your donations made it possible for the hospital to expand. Michael stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "You promised to take care of my family," Elena continued. "You have. For 25 years, you've been taking care of all of us. You just didn't know it." I didn't know," Michael stammered. "You promised I would help children. I do. Every day. Because of the funding you provided, I've saved thousands of children's lives. You made my dreams possible, Michael." Michael was crying openly now, the tears streaming down his face on live television. "You promised to wait for me," Elena said, her voice getting softer. "And you have. For 43 years, you've carried a wooden star in your pocket. You've never forgotten me. You've never stopped loving the girl I was." Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out the worn wooden star, holding it up to the camera. His hand shook as he gripped it. "I remember everything, Elena," he said, his voice cracking. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what?" Elena asked. "For not finding you sooner. For not being there when you needed me. For failing you." Elena shook her head, crying now too. "You didn't fail me, Michael. You saved me. You saved my whole family. You kept every promise you ever made." The studio was completely silent. Even the camera operators had stopped moving. Across America, Millions of people watched the most famous athlete in the world break down as he realized that his greatest failure had actually been his greatest success. "Elena," Michael whispered, "I never stopped loving you." "I know," Elena said softly. "I never stopped loving you either." The screen went black as the satellite connection ended abruptly. Michael sat alone in the studio, staring at the blank screen, holding a wooden star and the weight of 43 years of misunderstood love. The internet exploded within minutes. #Jordan Promise was trending worldwide before Michael had even left the ESPN studio. Videos of his emotional breakdown were shared millions of times. News outlets scrambled to understand what had just happened on live television, but nobody knew the full story yet. All they had seen was the most famous athlete in the world crying over a wooden star and a woman from his past. Michael sat in his car outside the studio for 2 hours, unable to drive. His phone rang constantly. His manager, his publicist, his family, reporters from around the world. He ignored them all. He just held Elena's wooden star and tried to process what she had told him. For 43 years, he had carried the weight of failure. The belief that he had broken the most important promise he had ever made. But Elena was saying he had kept it. That somehow, without knowing it, he had taken care of her family for decades. How was that possible? That evening, Michael called Sarah Collins, his foundation director, at her home. "Sarah, I need to ask you something," Michael said. "Duke Children's Hospital. How long have we been funding them?" "Since 1995, Sarah replied. "You specifically requested that we make them our largest healthcare recipient. You said children's medicine was your top priority. Did I ever specify why? Did I ever mention anyone there?" "No, but you always approve their funding requests." Immediately. No questions asked. "I remember thinking it was unusual because you usually wanted detailed reports on everything else." Michael felt his heart racing. "What about their pediatric nursing department?" "We've funded that extensively. New equipment, salary supplements, expanded programs. The head of nursing there has done incredible work. I think her name is Elena Martinez." Michael nearly dropped the phone. "Elena Martinez?" "Yes. She's been there for years. Actually, she's written some beautiful letters thanking the foundation for our support. Would you like me to find them?" "Please," Michael whispered. Sarah emailed him the files 20 minutes later. Michael opened them with shaking hands. "Dear Jordan Family Foundation," the first letter began. "Thank you for your continued support of Duke Children's Hospital. Because of your generosity, we were able to save the life of a 6-year-old boy with diabetes last month. His family couldn't afford his medical care, but our programs made it possible. You gave a child his future back." Michael read letter after letter. Elena's handwriting. Elena's words. Elena thanking him for helping children, not knowing she was thanking the boy who had once promised to save the world for her. "Your foundation has changed my life," one letter read. "I became a nurse because I wanted to help children who couldn't help themselves. Thanks to your funding, I've been able to do exactly that. You've made my dreams come true." Michael cried as he read. Elena had been writing to him for 20 years, thanking him, sharing her victories, telling him about the children they had saved together. And he had never known it was her. The next morning, the media circus was in full swing. Every news channel wanted to interview Michael. Entertainment shows picked apart the footage from the ESPN interview. Social media was filled with theories about who Elena Martinez was and what promise Michael had made. Finally, Michael agreed to one interview with Sarah Chun, the same reporter who had orchestrated their reunion. "The world wants to know," Sarah said as they sat in a quiet studio. "What was the promise that broke your heart on live television?" Michael held the wooden star in his palm, worn smooth from 43 years of handling. "When I was 18 years old," he began, "I fell in love with a girl named Elena Martinez. She was the smartest, kindest, most beautiful person I had ever met. She wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to help children." Sarah nodded, encouraging him to continue. But life got in the way. Her father had a heart attack. Her family was struggling financially. Her little brother had diabetes and needed expensive medicine. Elena had to choose between her dreams and her family. What did she choose? Her family. Always her family. She gave up her scholarship to Duke Medical School to work and take care of everyone she loved. Michael's voice cracked as he continued. "The night before I left for college, I made her a promise. I promised that when I became successful, I would come back for her. I would take care of her family. I would make sure she became a doctor. I would wait for her forever. But you couldn't. Find her, Sarah said gently. She disappeared. The whole family moved away when I was in college. I spent decades looking for her. I hired private investigators. I spent fortunes trying to track her down. I thought I had failed her completely. But yesterday, Elena told you something different. Michael smiled through his tears. She told me I had kept my promise. That somehow, without knowing it, my foundation has been taking care of her family for 25 years. How is that possible? My foundation director showed me the records. For decades, we've been the largest donor to Duke Children's Hospital, where Elena works. We've funded her department, paid for equipment that saved her brother's life, provided scholarships that sent her daughters to college. Michael looked directly into the camera. Elena became the head of pediatric nursing. She saved thousands of children's lives. She achieved her dream of helping kids, and I helped make it possible. I just didn't know it was her. What does this mean for you now? Sarah asked. It means the promise I thought I broke was actually kept in the most beautiful way possible. For 43 years, Elena and I have been partners in saving children's lives. We've been taking care of each other without knowing it. Do you regret the time you lost? Michael considered the question carefully. No. I think this was how it was supposed to happen. We were both meant to grow into the people we needed to become. Elena became an incredible nurse and mother. I became someone who could actually keep the promises I made when I was 18. What happens now? Now I finally understand that some promises are kept across decades. That love finds a way to work, even when the people who love each other are apart. Elena and I loved each other as teenagers, and that love grew into something bigger than romance. It became a mission to help children. Sarah leaned forward. Are you going to see her again? Michael smiled. We're meeting tomorrow. At the old basketball court where I first gave her this wooden star. Not to restart our romance. We both have families now. But to finally understand what we built together. What do you want to say to her? Michael looked at the wooden star in his hand. I want to say thank you. Thank you for making me promise to be something bigger than myself. Thank you for believing in me when I was just a scared kid. And thank you for spending your life keeping the spirit of that promise, even when you thought I had forgotten. The interview aired that night. Within hours, it had been viewed 50 million times. Comments poured in from around the world. Parents thanked Michael and Elena for inspiring them. Medical professionals shared stories of their own dedication to helping children. Young couples promised to love each other across any distance. But the most important viewer was Elena herself. She watched from her home in Durham, surrounded by her family. Her husband David held her hand as Michael spoke about their teenage love with such tenderness and respect. He's a good man, David said. Quietly. Yes, Elena replied. He always was. Her daughters, Sophia and Isabella, listened in amazement as they learned about their mother's first love and the promise that had shaped both their parents' lives. Mom, Sophia said, is that why you became a nurse? Because of him. Elena smiled. I became a nurse because I wanted to help children. But yes, Michael believing in my dreams gave me the courage to pursue them, even when they changed form. That night, Elena took out her own wooden star, the twin to the one Michael carried. For 43 years, these two pieces of wood had carried the weight of young love and impossible promises. Tomorrow, they would be reunited. Not the teenagers who had carved them, but the adults who had spent their lives keeping faith with. The dreams those teenagers had shared, the promise was complete. The circle was closing. And the world had learned that some love stories are too big to be contained by time or distance. They transcend individual happiness to become something greater, a force for good that touches thousands of lives across decades. Elena Martinez and Michael Jordan had loved each other for 6 months when they were teenagers. But that love had been saving children's lives for 43 years. Some promises, it turns out, are worth keeping forever. The old basketball court looked exactly the same and completely different. The cracks in the concrete had grown wider. Over 43 years, weeds pushed through the asphalt. The basketball hoops were rusty and bent. But in the afternoon sunlight, with children playing on the nearby playground, it still felt magical. Elena arrived first. She parked her car and sat for a moment, remembering the last time she had been here. 18 years old, heartbroken, watching Michael drive away to college. She had thought that night was an ending. Now she understood it had been a beginning. Michael's Car pulled up 10 minutes later. Through her windshield, Elena watched him sit motionless, probably having the same memories. Finally, he got out and walked toward the court. He moved differently now, the confident walk of a man who had conquered the world. But Elena could still see traces of the shy teenager who used to help her with math homework. They met in the center of the court, where the faded paint still marked the free throw line. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Two 60-year-olds, seeing the ghosts of their teenage selves. "You look good," Michael said softly. "So do you," Elena replied. "Famous agrees with you." Michael laughed, and the sound broke some of the tension. "Famous is overrated. Meaningful is better." They sat on the old wooden bench where they had shared their last conversation 4 decades ago. The bench was weathered and wobbly, but it held their weight. "I brought something," Elena said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out her wooden star, the twin to the one Michael had carried all these years. Michael's eyes widened. "You kept it?" "Of course I kept it. It's been in my jewelry box for 43 years. I take it out sometimes when I need to remember who I used to be." Michael pulled out his own star. The two pieces of wood looked like old friends reuniting. After a long journey, worn smooth, but still beautiful, still holding the love that had created them. "Elena," Michael said, "I need to apologize." "For what?" "For not finding you sooner. For not being there when your father died. For not helping Carlos when he was sick. For not—" "Stop," Elena said firmly. "Michael, you were there. You helped. Carlos. You helped all of us. You just did it in a way we couldn't see." Michael shook his head. "I should have tried harder to find you." "No," Elena said. "If you had found me, it would have ruined everything." "What do you mean?" Elena turned to face him fully. "Michael, think about it. If you had found me when we were 25, what would have happened?" Michael considered this. "We would have gotten married, started a family. And then what? You would have been a basketball player married to a nurse. I would have been the woman who gave up her career to follow your dreams. We would have loved each other, but we wouldn't have become who we were meant to be. But we lost so much time. Did we?" "Michael, because we couldn't be together, you poured all your energy into becoming the best basketball player in history. You built a foundation that has saved thousands of children's lives. You became a force for good in the world." Elena paused, gathering her thoughts. "And because I couldn't wait for you, I built my own life. I became a nurse. I saved children who reminded me of Carlos. I married a good man who deserved all my love, not just the pieces you didn't have. You're saying it was better this way. I'm saying it was perfect this way. The universe knew what it was doing when it separated us." Michael was quiet for a long moment. "Tell me about your family. Your real family now." Elena smiled. "David is wonderful. He's a pediatric doctor. We met saving a little girl's life together. He knew from the beginning that part of my heart belonged to someone else, and he loved me anyway." "And your daughters?" "Sophia is a teacher. Isabella is studying to be a social worker. They both want to help people, just like their parents." "And Carlos?" Elena's smile grew brighter. "Carlos is amazing. He teaches 3rd grade in Raleigh. His diabetes is completely controlled. He's married with 2 kids of his own. He still talks about the basketball player who used to visit him in the hospital. He remembers me. He named his son Michael." Michael's eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Michael Carlos Rodriguez. He's 8 years old and wants to be a basketball player, just like his namesake." They sat in comfortable silence, watching children play on the nearby swings. Elena thought about all the children she had helped over the years. Michael thought about all the games he had played, all the championships he had won. Both of them thought about the invisible thread that had connected their lives across 4 decades. "Elena," Michael said finally, "I want to show you something." He pulled out his phone and opened a folder labeled Foundation. Inside were hundreds of photos. Children in hospital beds, smiling after successful surgeries. Families celebrating when their kids got better. Doctors and nurses working with state-of-the-art equipment. "These are some of the children we've helped," Michael said. "Your hospital, your department, children you probably took care of personally." Elena scrolled through the photos, recognizing many faces. "This little girl," she said, pointing to a photo. "Emma. She had leukemia. She's in remission now because of the treatment your foundation funded." "And this boy," Michael said, pointing to another photo. "Diabetes, right? Like Carlos." "Yes. We were able to get him the best insulin pump because of your equipment donations." They went through photo after photo. Each image was a life saved, a family kept together, a future made possible. Elena realized she was looking at the visual proof of Michael's kept promise. "Michael," she said softly, "do you understand what you've done? Do you see what keeping your promise really meant?" "I'm starting to. You promised to take care of my family. You have. Carlos is alive because of your foundation's medical research funding. My daughters went to college because of scholarships you provided. I became head of nursing because your donations made it possible for the hospital to promote me." Elena pointed to the photos on his phone. "But it's so much bigger than just my family. You've taken care of thousands of families. You've saved thousands of children. The promise you made to one 18-year-old girl became a mission to help every child you could reach. And you," Michael said, "you've been the one actually caring for them. All these years, you've been the hands and heart of the promise I made." "We've been partners," Elena said. "We just didn't know it." Michael looked at the wooden stars lying on the bench between them. "What happens now? Now we go back to our lives. But we go back knowing the truth. We loved each other perfectly when we were young. And that love grew into something even more beautiful than marriage would have been." "Will I see you again?" Elena smiled. "You see me every day, Michael. Every time a child gets better at Duke Children's Hospital, you're seeing me. Every time your foundation helps a family, you're seeing the work we do together." Michael nodded, understanding. "And every time I watch the games on the foundation's website, every time I see the children we've helped, I'll know you're there." They stood up, the reunion coming to its natural end. But before they said goodbye, Elena had one more thing to show him. She pulled out a letter from her purse. "This is from a little boy named Marcus. He had heart surgery last month. Surgery your foundation paid for." Michael read the letter aloud. "Dear Mr. Jordan, thank you for saving my life. The doctor said I could have died, but your money helped them fix my heart. Now I can play basketball like you. My nurse, Miss Elena, said you're a very good man who helps children. I want to be like you when I grow up." Michael's voice broke as he finished reading. "He wants to be like me. Do you see?" Elena said. "The promise isn't just kept. It's multiplying. That little boy will grow up to help other children because of what you did for him. The love we shared as teenagers is still creating ripples of good in the world." They hugged then, not as former lovers, but as partners who had spent 43 years unknowingly working together to make the world better. "Thank you," Michael whispered. "Thank you," Elena whispered back. They walked to their cars in comfortable silence. Before getting in, Michael called out, "Elena?" "Yes, I kept my promise." Elena smiled through her tears. "We both did." As they drove away in opposite directions, both Michael and Elena felt something they hadn't experienced in 43 years, complete peace. The promise was kept. The circle was complete. The love story that began with two teenagers under the North Carolina stars had become something eternal. Somewhere in Durham, a child was getting better because of their partnership. Somewhere in the world, a nurse was inspired by Elena's example. Somewhere, a young person was learning that promises matter, that love finds a way, and that some things are worth keeping forever. The wooden stars had done their job. They had held the love safe across decades, until it could grow into something bigger than either Michael or Elena had ever imagined. 6 months later, the new children's wing at Duke Children's Hospital was everything Elena had dreamed it could be. Bright, cheerful rooms filled with the latest medical equipment. Play areas where kids could be kids, even while fighting serious illnesses. And right in the center, a beautiful garden where families could find peace during difficult times. The dedication ceremony was small and perfect. Local officials, hospital staff, and families whose children had been helped by the wing gathered in the main lobby. But the most important guests were the ones standing together near the information desk. Michael Jordan looked relaxed in his simple blue suit. No cameras followed him today. No reporters asked for quotes. He was just a man who had helped build something beautiful for children. Beside him stood Elena, wearing her crisp, white nursing uniform with a small wooden star pin on her collar. Her daughters, Sophia and Isabella, flanked her other side. David, her husband, stood nearby with a warm smile, genuinely happy to meet the man who had shaped his wife's dreams. Carlos had driven down from Raleigh with his own family. His 8-year-old son, Michael Carlos, wore a small basketball jersey and kept staring at his famous namesake with wide eyes. Uncle Michael, Little Michael Carlos whispered loudly. Are you really the best basketball player ever? Michael knelt down to the boy's level. I was pretty good. But you know what's more important than being good at basketball? What? Being good at helping people. Like your Aunt Elena. She's the real hero. Elena laughed. Don't fill his head with nonsense. You're both heroes in different ways. The hospital director, Dr. Patricia Williams, called for everyone's attention. We're here today to dedicate the Jordan Martinez Children's Wing, made possible by the Jordan Family Foundation and the incredible work of our head of pediatric nursing, Elena Martinez. Elena felt her heart skip. Jordan Martinez Wing. Michael smiled. I thought it was time our partnership got proper recognition. The crowd applauded as Elena and Michael pulled the ribbon together, officially opening the new wing. Inside, the walls were covered with artwork from children who had been treated at the hospital. Pictures of rainbows and families and hope. But the most special artwork was in the main hallway. A large mural showing a night sky filled with stars. And in the corner, painted in silver and gold, were two wooden stars side by side. The artist said those stars represent promises kept, Dr. Williams explained to the group. She said they've been watching over this place for years. After the ceremony, Michael and Elena walked through the new wing together. Children and families were already using the space. In the playroom, kids laughed as they built with blocks. In the family garden, parents found quiet moments of peace. It's perfect, Elena said, watching a little girl with leukemia play with a therapy dog. It's just the beginning, Michael replied. I've been thinking about expanding the foundation. Maybe we could fund pediatric wings at hospitals across the country. Michael stopped walking and looked at her seriously. Elena, I have a proposition. The foundation needs someone who understands children's medicine. Someone who knows what families really need. Someone who's spent their career actually caring for kids. What are you asking? I'm asking if you'd consider joining the foundation's board of directors. Help us decide where to focus our efforts. Make sure we're really making a difference. Elena felt tears forming in her eyes. You want me to be your partner? Officially. We've been partners for 25 years. I just want to make it official. Elena thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, absolutely yes. They shook hands in the middle of the hallway, under the mural of the two wooden stars. 43 years after promising to take care of each other's dreams, they were finally working together in the open. There's one more thing, Michael said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out his wooden star, worn smooth from decades of handling. What are you doing? Elena asked. I think it's time to let this go. The promise is kept. The love has grown into something bigger than we ever imagined. These stars have done their job. Elena nodded and pulled out her own star. Together, they walked to the family garden and found a small oak tree that had been planted in the center. This tree will grow as the children grow, Elena said. It will provide shade and comfort for families for decades to come. They buried both wooden stars at the base of the tree, not as an ending, but as a new beginning. The love that had been carved into those pieces of wood was now carved into something much bigger, a place where children could heal, families could hope, and dreams could come true. As they walked back toward the hospital, Elena's grandson ran up to them. Grandma Elena, Uncle Michael, look what I drew. Little Michael Carlos held up a picture of two people in a hospital, helping a child walk again. Above them, he had drawn 2 stars shining down. Those are the promise stars, he explained proudly. They watch over the hospital and make sure all the kids get better. Michael and Elena looked at each other and smiled. The little boy understood something that had taken them 43 years to learn. Sometimes the greatest promises are kept, not through grand gestures, but through quiet acts of love that span decades. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that transcend romance to become something eternal. The promised stars would keep shining, watching over children and families, reminding everyone who saw them that love finds a way, even across time, distance, and the changing seasons of life. And in the end, that was the most beautiful promise of all. And that's how a promise made by 2 teenagers under the North Carolina stars grew into something that touched millions of lives. Across 4 decades. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about getting the person. They're about becoming the person who can keep impossible promises. Where are you listening from? Drop a comment and let us know. Your story matters too. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. When we share stories of love, kindness, and promises kept, we spread a little more hope in the world. And the world needs all the hope it can get. There's another incredible true story waiting for you right on your screen. Click it now because every story of love and courage deserves to be heard. Until next time, remember, some promises are worth keeping forever.